Yeah,
See
I
where
feel
we
like I'm
go.
like, it feels like I'm going on a first date.
Right? It does feel weird like that, right? It's like,
Like, does my hair look okay? Oh my
we look great. We're going to be on video. This is going to go
god.
all over the world, right?
Woo! Rock on.
Yeah, I know it's strange. I mean, like I said, when I started this adventure, I thought about doing this about 2 years ago, and I've been kind of poking at it and playing with it for a little while. And
Yeah.
I finally just got tired of waiting around, and so I went ahead and just, what the hell, pull the trigger and go for it.
Amen to that. Good. I'm
So
glad because
let's
I've
let's
been
get
feeling that same.
right,
Let's do
exactly. So let me just get into this queue
Okay.
and do this little intro bit, and then we'll get in there.
Sounds
Welcome
good.
to Simpin Ain't Easy podcast, where we dive into the heart of politics, relationships, and business with unfiltered conversations and a fresh perspective. I'm Vince, your host, passionate about unpacking the ideas that shape our lives and drive our world forward. Each episode will explore what matters most, challenge assumptions, and spark meaningful dialogue. Buckle up. This is where curiosity meets clarity. And let's get started. Today's guest is Carmela Panza, veterinarian extraordinaire. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Vince. This is awesome. Glad to be
so,
here.
so who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, just a small town girl that grew up on a farm and grew up with animals surrounded by chaos. I've been a veterinarian for almost 20 years now, and ever since I can remember, just love interacting with animals, rescuing animals, and I am now a veterinarian who practices more holistic medicine, Eastern, more so than Western, but more integrative. I use the best of both worlds, and I live in Southern California and try to practice mindfulness in whatever I do.
Trying to practice mindfulness, isn't that really hard to do? I mean,
Yeah,
at any level, it's like trying to be mindful of everything, right? Your
yeah,
surroundings, whatever else is going on. Talk about a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your holistic stuff. Like, what is that involved? I know most people are, into traditional veterinarians where we have to go. We pay, some people pay for insurance and whatnot, and find that
yeah,
they're, and just like most Western medicine, I think most people feel like uh, the system, for lack of a better word, treats everybody, including our pets, like a number.
oh yeah.
So how does the holistic part fit into the field of veterinary? How do I say that?
Veterinary medicine, yeah. It's
Veterinary
a tough
medicine.
one.
There you go.
Veterinary, yes, veterinarian. Well, I mean, I was trained under the Western academics, quote unquote traditional. Although Eastern medicine has been around for thousands of years before we had any lab tests and stuff like that. So I've always been the type of vet that basically will look at the root cause of an issue rather than trying to chase a symptom with pills. I knew like from my core beginning that that wasn't the right way. So I wanted to learn as much as possible, like what's the physiology? How does the body work? And then where do things go wrong? And then finding where that thing went wrong and trying to correct it. Being of Italian descent, we always ate great food. We made a lot of our own things, tomato sauce, olive oil, salami, wine. So I've always been of that mindset of eating wholesome food. And so over the years with my own pets, I started to note where there were deficiencies in Western medicine where I couldn't help my own pet. Nerone, he was about 11, a little over 11 when he eventually passed, but he had bad knees from the start because he was neutered as a puppy, like literally 6 or 7 weeks old at the shelter. I had no control over that. So he was essentially set up for failure, if you will, in the musculoskeletal department because without our sex hormones, we can't really accomplish a lot of effective growth. So they can still grow, but not, to the best level, essentially. So that just led me down a path of like, what else can I do to help my poor boy? So, I was feeding him decent food at the time that I thought. And this was probably around 2015 when he finally passed. In 2017, I went to a conference in San Diego, and there was a lecture about acupuncture. And I was like, interesting. Let's go check it out. I had been already called to that for my own, health and stuff. But I had been to acupuncture myself, for my own treatments and stuff. So it's like, okay, let's give it a try. And literally the cases they were talking about was my dog, older dog with osteoarthritis on prednisone, which is a steroid to decrease inflammation, or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like our doggy aspirin essentially. And, gabapentin, heavy-duty pain meds that my dog unfortunately suffered the side effects of, like, not being in his right mind. Like, he was not okay. He would howl in the middle of the night. Just his system was overwhelmed and toxic. So when I sat there and I saw these cases, first of all, I cringed a little bit and I became emotional because I was like, oh my God, this whole time, like, this had existed. I could have helped him. But I took that and applied it to the other pets and my current pets and my current patients, essentially. So I studied Chinese medicine starting in 2019. I did a course and became certified in 2020, right before the pandemic exploded, where we basically you basically look at the body and see what is the blood and the energy, the chi energy in our body doing, how's it circulating. And if it's stuck anywhere, that can lead to pain or imbalance between the organs. Every single organ has a channel in the body. So there's points along the body where the certain organ is going to be most represented. There's 12 channels, 12 main organs, systems. And so learning how to balance that through food is the primary way. Chinese herbs as well, acupuncture, stimulating certain points that will help set that system back into a balance of flow, the yin and the yang, essentially, where you have light and dark, and a little bit of darkness in the light, and a little bit of dark in the lightness, essentially.
So let's back this up a little bit. There was a lot there to unpack. So,
yeah, there's a lot.
because I know, well, no, I mean, and it's great. That's I'm not saying that. I'm just saying let's go back to when he was neutered as a baby. I mean, we're going a little bit back there. So this was an interesting thing that happened in my experience before adopting Malcolm and Angus. Was the fact that the rescue that I adopted the boys from insisted that I get them neutered. And I said, well, if that's going to be a stipulation, right away is what they wanted me to do. I said, if that's going to be a stipulation, that I'm not going to be able to take them off your hands, because I experienced the same thing a few years earlier with Ollie. He was neutered very young, and I learned and read through the internet that a lot of his systems, much like I missed the name of your first dog,
Nerone.
Nerone.
Yeah.
So
Nero, the Roman emperor.
like Nero.
Yeah, Nero.
We
On,
won't even get into that one. Hey, it got too far. Anyways, but I digress. So with Ollie, we had him neutered early. Of course, or I think it was actually the breeder. Anyways, long story short, Ollie had a lot of issues and whatnot, and then prior to, so I ended up waiting for a long time with Malcolm and Angus. I
Nice.
actually waited until they were a little over a year old, maybe about
Perfect.
14 months old. Just I wanted to make sure that they had gotten everything and they came to full size. Now I got two full-grown monsters at 105, 110 pounds apiece.
God
So
bless.
that was that part. But you also talked about Chinese medicine, and you talked about these blockages and whatnot. Is that the chakra that you're talking about? Like chakra energy that we have as humans? Is that the same in animals? And how does that philosophy tie into uh, animal health? Like, is it the same thing? Is it different? Like, how does that work? Because I mean, once you start getting into mysticism and spirituality, as far as humans concerned, as far as I understand, animals don't have a conscience, even though they seem like they do.
I beg to differ.
Right? It's well, that's kind of what I want to get into. It's
Yeah.
like how does that Chinese mysticism, and I'm saying it only because I'm a fucking neophyte, because I don't know, and that's what we're here for.
Right.
We're here to
Yeah.
learn.
Yes, for sure. And I love learning and I love teaching because I've also been an educator in the veterinary world. But so the chakras are slightly different. The chakras are more of a central alignment, and with Eastern medicine or Chinese medicine, we are looking at the organs. So liver and gallbladder, heart and small intestine. There's pairings of these organs that are either yang organs or yin organs. So it's not really a mysticism in a sense as much as the chakras are. We're looking more at the chi energy, which is the life force that moves our blood throughout our body, as well as the vitality of those organ channels. So I don't know if I should have brought props, but if you ever look up,
You got slides?
slides somewhere.
Let's do a PowerPoint presentation.
So essentially, there are these organs: liver, gallbladder, heart, small intestine, stomach, spleen, kidney, urinary bladder. All those organs are associated with certain channels in our body. So it's slightly different than the chakras are. Like, you know, you have your crown chakra, the throat chakra, the solar plexus, and so on and so forth, from what I can briefly remember off the top of my head.
It's not a test, I promise.
I know, like, oh my God. Again, I have plenty of props, they're just over there. The channels in Chinese medicine correspond to certain body points throughout our body. And so they basically are connected to our actual organs internally. So it's more of a concrete kind of, you know, medicine, if you will. And this has existed for over 4,000 years. So in the Ming Dynasty, back in the day, they started with mammals, with human mammals, and then applied that to horses. They were the first ones that received that because they were part of the royal court, if you were, in that sort of a situation. So they learned to read the body by examining the pulse, like over our wrist, as well as looking at the color of the tongue to see what are the chi and the blood doing in your body. If the chi is stuck somewhere, then that organ system is not working properly.
See, that's really interesting because when I started to go on my own personal health journey, cutting weight, you know, I was tipping the scales about 8 years ago at 260 pounds, and weight has just been a huge struggle in my family lineage. Yeah, well, just for full transparency, Carmela and I are cousins, distance cousins. Yeah, right. But we're still cousins, and we've virtually grown up together. So,
yeah, for sure.
So you know about the issues that we've had, and the thing that you said is when I began that challenge. One of the things that they said about your body functioning properly is that you have a coated tongue. And at that time, when I was really, it's like I had a white film over my tongue, and I can say now that I don't, except for coffee. I got a coffee coating. My addiction to caffeine. But so explain to me how, like, these ailments, because I mean, you bring up a great point, like all of these you know, organs and whatnot. How, I mean, and without getting too deep in the woods and too medical, I mean, how is it that people can start to recognize it? And the one key thing that, like, I touched on and reminded me of something, obviously, was the tongue. But, you know, like yellow glaze in the eyes, like those kinds of things, like as far as humans and pets are concerned, like, can you kind of touch on that and how similar we are?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so you mentioned the eyes, for example. The eyes are the external representation of our liver. So if we have redness or irritation, you know, inflammation in the eyes, then that's telling us that there's something going on in the liver. That's mirroring essentially what's happening inside of the liver. The liver processes all of our toxins, for example. So if you have a heat toxin, for example, alcohol is a heat toxin, vaccines are a heat toxin. Hey.
Why'd you bring that up? Hey, oh, hey.
Vaccines are a heat toxin. Infections are a heat toxin. They will stagnate and block up the liver. The liver is just under our right rib cage, right side of our rib cage, and so you can actually have pain. And there's certain like alarm points there, but it'll be reflected in other parts of your body. So the yellowing of the eyes, of the white parts of the eyes, that's essentially like jaundice. That's when, you know, bile and stuff is kind of essentially stuck in there, bilirubin, stuff like that, from breakdown of red blood cells and disease within the liver itself. So, but going back to what you were saying about Ollie being neutered so young, basically we're putting these animals into menopause like, a woman of my 40s, mid to late 40s now, I'm starting to experience certain hormonal shifts in the world. So our hormone balances change, and male and female animals that are neutered and spayed so young suffer those same consequences. They get horrible dermatitis because estrogen is everywhere. So all male and females all have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, just in varying levels depending on if you're male or female gender,
Right.
or sex, or whatever we want to call it these days. So by taking that away so young, we have underdevelopment of the musculoskeletal system, the cartilage lining. So these poor animals are prone to osteoarthritis. Their ligaments and tendons can rupture very easily. The cartilage can become easily bruised, which is incredibly painful if that happens within it, where they are, which is within the joints. And then they can have horrible skin disorders. So I have one of my veterinary classmates. She's actually taken a course where she's doing testosterone supplementation on animals, both male and female, to help them with allergies. Because again, the estrogens, the hormones are located. There's plenty of hormone receptors everywhere in our bodies. So the kidneys are related to the gonads. So when we spay and neuter these animals so young, they can have what we call a kidney chi, or energy deficiency. So they have weakness in the hind end. They start to wobble in their hind end. They can have kidney insufficiency and drink a lot of water, but they also get what we call Cushing's disease, because the
Explain,
adrenal.
Lucy.
Huh?
I said explain, Lucy. Cushing's disease.
You got some splaining. So Cushing's disease is a problem where the adrenal glands, in a sad little attempt to make up for the fact that the gonads are no longer there, they're going to try to make up for that loss. And they can produce some sex hormones, but not enough to make up for what we've ripped out of these poor little creatures. And so then that communicates with the brain and the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands, which then talk to the thyroid gland as well. So we end up with these overweight, itchy dogs that are losing hair and drinking a lot of water, peeing a lot of water, peeing out a lot of urine, because their adrenal glands are fried, their thyroid glands are fried, they're overweight because the thyroid gland is not functioning properly. So everything is kind of like shut down because it's exhausted in trying to make up for no gonads producing sex hormones.
So the moral of the story, much like your children, you shouldn't spay and neuter your pets too early.
No. I mean, it's so funny because I can remember, and I mean, I've learned to have grace for myself and the previous version of myself when I first graduated. I remember clearly, walking down the street and seeing dogs with their testicles, and I was like, oh, I was appalled. I was like, oh my God, neuter your dog, because I had been conditioned.
Right.
I was in school where, you got to spay and neuter these animals by the time they're 6 months of age. And I'm like, what is happening? I know that there's a problem in shelters and there's a lot of animals, but that's not where it's coming from. It's coming from the fact that there's other irresponsible people that are, not doing what they should be doing, and breeders and so on and so forth. But
so if you were to just kind of ballpark it, I mean, in all honesty, like I said, I waited about 14 months and I showed proof to, just because I wanted to be honorable, and I showed, that I wanted to make sure that they were the rescue was aware. But I mean, if you were to recommend a time to have that, I mean, and again, this is just a guesstimation. I'm not saying that you have to, write it in law. It's not being carved in stone. But if a guesstimation, I mean, when do your pets kind of get into that adulthood point where it would be safe enough to where they get the hormones and the things that they need for a longer, healthier life, and yet, that delicate balance of like keeping them from breeding and creating exasperating the issue of overpopulation of pets?
I mean, there really is no perfect answer. The way I practice is I look at each pet individually, and most of the pets I see are have been spayed or neutered.
Right.
I waited for my dog she was about 14 months as well, because I really didn't want to deal with her menstrual cycle, her heat cycle, if you will. Excuse me. And now I'm of the mindset of like, I wouldn't do it because I feel that a lot of the underlying cancers that we see that arise from pets that are still intact, meaning not spayed or neutered, is because of the food that they're getting. They're getting so many byproducts of stress, junk that they don't need, carcinogens that are in the food, plus whatever chemicals the animals that go the meat that goes into the food of pets and how hot it is and overheated and processed. There's so many AGEs and glycation products that are causing free radicals to occur. So I don't even think they need to be spayed and neutered, to be quite honest, which if my vet
sacrilege, I tell you, sacrilege. I could just hear, people in the chat are just going to go ape shit right now. Sacrilege. Don't spay and neuter your pets. God forbid. Yeah, it's going to be hell, isn't it? Yeah, right?
I know. They're going to come at my door like in 5 minutes. They're going to be here. They're sending out reinforcements right now.
Right. Luckily, you can't cancel somebody who doesn't have anything.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have professional liability. It's fine. But I would say, although I've spayed and neutered my animals, is I would wait as long as you possibly can, as long as you are being diligent about what you're feeding them. I cook for my dog. I feed my cats. I have 3 cats as well. I feed them good quality food to the best of my abilities. There are certain kibbles out there that are not so heavily processed where people can be met in the middle, but I fully support either raw or balanced cooked foods. As long as it's balanced and they're getting the vitamins and the minerals they need, I don't think we would see as many problems in pets as they get older.
Well, it kind of falls in line. I mean, this is really because, like, the way we are as humans, like, you kind of avoid, the inside aisles of the grocery store with all the cereals, the
Right.
processed sugars, and all that other good
100%.
stuff, and you kind of lean towards the veggies and the meats and the dairy, which is all on the outside, right? This is
Yeah.
stuff that we've been told a million times over, and yet we still. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I still run to that bag of Doritos. Uh,
They are tasty. I'm not gonna lie.
They are tasty, but they're overly processed. They don't have
Oh yeah.
chemicals, or they have a lot of chemicals in them. I correct myself, and it's disastrous. For me, myself, my dog. I think I've sent you a few pictures of what I feed them. I feed them human grade food and
Yeah.
1 cup of kibble, and then me because I spoil the shit out of them. They get an ass ton of treats, like jerky treats.
Yeah.
Just all day long. It's like Malcolm would be like, "Wait, we walked inside, Dad. You have to go over to the closet and get us some treats." Yeah, so they've trained me well. I am wrapped around their paw, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Same, ditto, like for
Just
sure.
spoil the crap out of them.
Oh yeah.
So this kind of leads me. So now we were talking about the spiritual and the physical aspect of taking care of the dogs. This is really the crux of what I wanted to kind of get to in regards to the emotional state of our animals and how they benefit us and how they mirror who we are as human beings. Well, and the reason why, because in the book, I mean, and this is kind of the whole point of putting the pot, there's not being shy about it, is because I put together this podcast to not only help other people, but also promote the book. And because I feel that my story going out there, there's going to be some people who can relate to my shit.
Yeah.
And some people who may be afraid of, seeking recovery or seeking spirituality or whatever it is. And realizing that, it's never too late.
Right.
So with that being said, and that, basically selfless pitch or selfish pitch.
Slightly.
In my book, I wrote about Ollie and realizing that he taught me, how to actually be human. It's like, yes, I was born into humanity. But in the book, in that story that I was telling, was the fact that he was actually a direct reflection of what kind of an animal I really was, what an asshole I really was. And so I really benefit or really give my dog Ollie the credit of teaching me what being human is all about. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to ask you and get your take on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been working in the veterinary field probably for over 25 years now. as a vet tech and then as a veterinarian for the last 18 plus years. But I mean, I've been around animals my whole life. So I would say 100% they are our mirrors. They're our refuge. And I feel they're soulmates, just like other humans that come into our lives are going to mirror things for us and show us where we're still not free, essentially. And then I think we had talked about this briefly, but I've heard also like, podcasts or some sort of video clip about it where, those of us that don't have human children end up having animal children that come to us in just a different form, a little furrier form. I've always been very hairy, so I feel very comfortable with the hairy children. It's an Italian gift. What can I say?
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, I remember
I had to shave my chest at the pool at MGM. That's bullshit. Right?
Yeah, this is all waxed. I'm just kidding. No, but I remember being 5 and, I grew up in a household that was completely chaotic. It was my family, my dad's brother, my uncle's, family, and then my paternal grandparents. And it was constant chaos. If they were not working, and if they were working, they were arguing. If they were in the house eating dinner, it was chaos. So my adrenal glands were fried from a very young age. Cortisol was like, woo, woo, woo. But I remember...
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
I know. It's so fun. I'm going to write a book. I've been telling myself that like a long time.
I'll walk you through the process of self-publishing.
I would love that. I would love that for us. But I remember just hanging out in the barn all day. I mean, I would not go inside. Days that I didn't have to go to school or before I started school, I would just be out in the barn and they'd be like, oh, where's Carmela? And then eventually come find me, or I would have like been birthing sheep and stuffed goats and whatever. But I felt so at peace with animals because there was unconditional love, no judgment, no criticism, no yelling, and just body language that was just so very natural, to be around. Fast forward, 40 something years. And I see that with my clients and the pet parents that I get to meet. A lot of the times, their diseases are mirrored. Like I've seen so many pets that have thyroid problems, and they're like, "Oh, I have a thyroid problem too," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not surprised." Or they have allergies, or sometimes even seizures. I literally have like goosebumps right now. I don't know if you can see this. Do you see that?
Your hair's standing on your arms. I see that. Yeah.
It is trippy to me, and then. I also see the pet parents that are super anxious, that are maybe dealing with something else outside of what's going on with the pet. And that anxiety creates a life force, like a vortex of energy that then brings disease into the pet as well. And a lot of the times I have like very candid conversations with the pet parents because I've been that way too with my own pets, being so stressed out and worried for their well-being because I see the worst of the worst. I see everything that goes wrong, and that's how my brain has been trained, is to see what's wrong with this pet, read their body language. But spiritually they mirror us, and I've seen so many pet parents that are going through divorce or their own health issues where they rely on their pet to kind of help anchor them and help them live in the moment, because as humans we like to get in our own head and get in our own way, so it's kind of like a grounding force for humans, I would say, is what I've experienced myself, as well as with my friends and pet parents that I get to serve.
Well, and that's what I found with Ollie. It's like when I was, again, I'm not going to, spoiler alert, but when I was working with Ollie, it's like every time, it's like I'd blow a gasket or something to that effect, and and just, and he would just kind of look at me, or like what the hell is wrong with you, dude? It's like, and not like in a judgmental way, but like in a way that it was just kind of like, dude, I don't understand what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
And then because of the fact that they don't talk and they don't speak, and it's like that moment of clarity, there was this one part where I had mentioned that I shoved Ollie in a cage, and he ended up slamming his paw underneath the cage and probably twisting it to some degree. He was fine. However, I heard him yelp, right?
Oh.
And so, but I was in the heat of it. I was pissed. I was feeling all kinds of anxiety. I described the whole situation in the book. But after, in hindsight, just realizing that, and after having a conversation with a dear friend of mine, it's like, why are you getting all bent out of shape, dude? He's just a dog, man. He just lives in the moment,
Yeah.
And it's like, and he'd rather be like playing and having fun with you
Yeah.
than, worried about, whatever, because they are in the moment, right?
Yeah.
That's the key. They're always tied into the moment.
Yeah.
And they don't worry about tomorrow. They don't worry about yesterday. They don't
Nope.
worry about size or, whatever. It's like they're just always in the moment. and
Yeah.
and and it was at that point where I just realized, it's like, oh, I need to figure out how to talk to my dog and be a better human being, really. I mean, like I said, no spoilers in here. You got to buy the book if
Oh no. I already
another
have
shameless plug.
Buy the book. Yeah.
Uh, but so yes, okay. So the emotional states, they're definitely mirrors. Okay, so here's a good one. All right, so you've heard of people saying that they kind of not only emotionally and psychologically mirror their pets, but they also
I'm
uh,
afraid where this is going.
they also look like their pets.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, like, is there, and this kind of has to do a little bit with personality. It's like, what personality types are more attracted to what dogs or what breed of dog? Right. Like, I'm attracted to labs because they're slobbery, they're dopey, they eat a lot, and they're just like
Perfect.
basically walking wrecking balls. And I'm like, God, that
Yeah.
fits me to a T.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah, I've seen, because I used to be more of a cat specialist, so I see that with cat people too. It's a whole different breed.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother fun conversation.
They're
But what
kind
are
of
the dog?
crazy though, aren't they? Like
Huh?
cat people, aren't cat people crazy?
Well, not all cat people are crazy. Although,
Watch, they're gonna light up the cat people aren't crazy.
no, I mean, and that's fine. I welcome all walks of life here, but
No, that falls all on me, all on me.
yeah.
I'm making that claim.
I mean, I love all creatures. Um, I have 4 cats. I guess the limit is 5. If you're over 5, that's where things get a little
The crazy
questionable.
cat lady down the street. I had one of
Mhm.
those growing up.
Yeah, yeah, they're everywhere. I do have what we call a catio. It's an enclosed cat patio, so they can be outside without being in the dangers of raccoons and coyotes and fleas and whatnot. And I don't like to have animals caged because like I hate being inside. I would rather be digging a ditch outside and doing all kinds of crazy work outdoors, even with this heat, than be stuck inside sitting at a desk doing like paperwork and stuff like, or study. Because I was, trapped for a while studying, but I digress. Um, I would say, yeah, it's very, very much so where I see a lot of the breeds associated with certain types of people, like personality. So, like, the poodles, the very fancy, like poodles, or the tiny little dogs that go in purses and stuff like that, that people use more of as like an accessory. I mean, I'm really blessed where I get to see a lot of great pet parents that are, willing to, not only are they educating themselves, but they're open to more holistic modalities of healing, which to me is like everything. So yeah, I do totally see that. The labs, with the kind of goofy people, and dachshund people are a thing. They're kind of like standoffish and they're sassy. Corgis are very sassy, can be very sassy. I would say like 90% of corgis that I see are super sassy, and their parents are also a little bit sassy as well. And then, yeah, cats, I would say most cat people are very introverted. And a lot of them have gone through trauma. I would say most people that are linked up with animals have had some sort of trauma or trespassing, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And that's why I think most of us are attracted to the animal world, because they're not aggressive towards us. You know what I mean? That there's that unconditional love. They're safe. They're not gonna come at us and yell and scream and bite unless they've been through some sort of trauma and they're intimidated or, scared for whatever reason. But huskies, woo! I just saw a husky on, what's today? Today's Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
Monday, I was in the clinic, and a 14-year-old husky, intact male, still having some issues, but in pretty good shape. The owner was feeding raw food, balanced raw food. And this woman was very challenging to talk to. I had gone through and explained the whole, these are things you should look out for in older pets, and explaining the chi energy and whatever. And, raw food is a little warming for older pets. Maybe give some lightly cooked things as well. And then at the end, she's like, well, you didn't answer any of my questions. And I was like, whoa, the dog was very aggressive. We could barely touch him. So you could see the similarity between the person who was very abrasive and defensive and what's the word? Not speculative. What am I looking for? Diffident, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Assuming?
Yeah. She just wasn't trusting.
Right.
And it was 100% just like her. It was so bizarre, so,
So that's a really good segue into this next question. It's so does the psychopathy of the human, pass down to the pet? In this case, we're talking about dogs because I'm a dog owner.
Yeah.
But and I mean, and obviously the opposite is true. I mean, if you have a good-natured human, does that? I mean, so this is a good segue. Throw me another story.
Yes, I would say I see a lot of anxious pets, and their pet parents are 100% anxious. I will out myself right here, right now. I used to be much worse. With Kaya, my most recent dog, who's on my shirt. She, after my two former dogs had passed on, I was afraid to get a new pet because I was so devastated. It literally ripped a chunk of my heart when both of them, they passed about a couple years apart from each other. And I remember being in Hawaii and releasing their spirit. It was 2018, March 27th. I was sitting on a beach in Hawaii and meditating, and I had to release their spirit because every time I saw dogs that reminded me of them or thought of them, I would start crying. It had been, 3+ years. So I'm sitting there and I release them, and then come back from Hawaii and we're at a friend's wedding. One of the people there was like, oh, my neighbor's dog just had puppies and they're black and tan. And I like the black and tans. German Shepherds are my favorite. And they're like, oh, you got to see these pictures. And they say,
Does that have anything to do with Newcastle and Guinness?
Yes, I like dark beer. I love dark beer. Dragon's milk, very good.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, real beer, none of that yellow fizzy stuff. What's the point? But yeah, so the dogs, the litter of dogs, they were born on March 30th of 2018, which was Good Friday. And 3 days after I had finally released my dogs and, spiritually just kind of be at peace with them. So when I met her, I think I still had my cords, my attachments with my other dogs, and not having been able to save them or help them, because they both died pretty tragically, which I won't talk about because we'll be here forever, and I don't have enough tissues for that.
I hear what you're screaming. I can relate.
Oof.
After you're done here, I'll tell you a little bit of what, at least in regards to energy in the house with Ollie. But go ahead, please finish.
Yeah. So when she came around, I became a helicopter mom, and I was so anxious for her and didn't want to put flea control on her. Was flea combing her obsessively. Didn't want to give her vaccines. She had a vaccine reaction. Again, my nervous, chaotic energy, literally vortex pulled in all these things. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. And when she got spayed, it was June of 2019. So she was, 15 months or whatever. 2 weeks later, she starts puking her brains out. I was at a vet conference in Long Beach, and I come home and my ex-partner was like, oh yeah, she's been throwing up. Because I'm like, what's wrong with the dog? She's like, looks like shit. She looks like she's dying. And I'm like, what the hell? So I touch her belly and I do my full physical. She's burning up. She's barfing her brains out. I feel her tummy, and I felt like a tennis ball sized mass in her caudal abdomen, just where the uterus would have been, like right in front of her bladder, her urinary bladder. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I was just like psycho mode. So took her down to the ER. They did an ultrasound. Where she had the uterus removed, she had this, like, remember those geodes that you like crack open and you see all these like parts, like those rocks?
Yeah. I know exactly. Yeah.
It literally looked like a tennis ball sized geode, and that opened up and there was like a little bit of fluid in there, but the body had walled off the sutures where the uterine parts were taken out, and same thing where the ovaries were taken out. 2 weeks to the day. And I was like, what the fuck? I'd never seen anything like that in my, at that time was like 15 years.
Right?
Yeah. I was like, what the hell? So she had a horrible reaction to the sutures. Now, spiritually, I would say physically, I know that can happen if there's bacteria in like her body, but she had already had a rabies vaccine reaction at 4 months of age that was still with her. So that triggered her immune system to be hyperreactive. But spiritually, I know 1000% that it was my energy, my focus of being so worried that something bad was going to happen to her. I was so nervous for her space.
It?
I fucking projected the fuck out of that, dude. Like,
dude, that's heavy shit.
Yeah. I know 1000% that's what happened, because I was so worked up. I like laser beam focused all my energy into her, and this crazy ass mass formed. Even the surgeon because I wasn't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, and I didn't even do her spay. I had my former vet student do it for me. She was a shelter vet, so she did it in like 10 minutes. Perfect stuff, perfect form. But yeah, so ever since then, I've been even more of a helicopter mom, and I'm now, probably for the past 3 years since my breakup, I've become less of a helicopter mom for her.
Kind of letting it go, kind of backing it up, just kind of like, let go and let God type of thing. It's 100%. Like, I'm not going to try to manifest any of this chaos, because I honestly believe that we could either manifest. We could live in a life of abundance or a life of, scarcity, right? Yep. And it's like, and if we can do that, then we can manifest good or we can manifest bad.
100%.
And the same was true because Ollie was very neurotic. He was the runt of the litter. He was the runt of the litter. Uh-huh. And I want to make this really quick, but he had issues, right? He had a whole bunch of allergies. I want to believe that he was overbred. He had eyesight issues. He had thousands of dollars and many vet visits. Trying to come to a situation. And then on top of that, I'm in a marriage that is completely toxic and chaotic. And so my poor dog, Ollie, and again, I own my part of it for sure.
Yeah.
And it just, and this is that part where I was telling you where it's like this particular animal, this dog, like, blessed me with the gift of learning what it's like to be human, because it's like this poor dog was completely neurotic, and then when I finally had to let him go, and so this is where I get a little emo too, so I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna try not to get too much into the weeds. But when I had to let him go, it was like he was having you said the word earlier when they shake violently.
He was having seizures, right?
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't think of the word. A brain fart. And so, I had to finally make that hard decision and let him go.
I'm so sorry.
This time around, what's a little bit different with Malcolm and Angus, I really focus on, and a lot of this had to do with a good friend of mine who was a dog owner for years, and he's a Rottweiler guy, but he basically said, you got to let them be dogs, man.
Yeah,
it's like you got to discipline them, but discipline them like for the house. Like, for example, like when it came to, like, for me with Malcolm and Angus. Now, Angus, he was on point. He was like, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go pee. No problem. Malcolm was a little slower. And the funny thing is like, he's
I'm
just that big.
lazy. He's
What's
lazy.
that?
He's lazy. He just didn't want to go outside.
Well,
I mean,
that's the
I'm
thing. So it
comfortable
was
here.
like, with Malcolm, it was like, I could see him sniffing around, and I was like, "Don't you do it? Let's look." So we went outside, and he sniffed around, and it took forever, and I was just like, "All right, fine." So we go back inside. He jumps up on the couch. He had just learned how to jump on the couch too. That's what was really funny. And so he starts looking around, and then he decides, "I'm gonna squirt right here."
Oh,
And so I'm like, no! I freaked out, right? And I went and grabbed him and took him outside, and he's trailing his pee all the way outside. And by the time we got outside, he was done. But that was the last time he pissed inside the house until about 4 or 5 months later.
oh,
About 4 or 5 months later, I opened up the guest bedroom. Now, they have pretty much full run of the house, except for the guest bathroom and the guest bedroom. So I open up and because I'm getting it ready, because I think... I was going to go on a ski trip. My buddy was coming up. So I wanted to air out the room and, get it straightened up and ready for him to come up. We were going on a ski trip. And so Malcolm decides, oh, yeah, I'm going to mark this room. This is the only room I didn't mark. And I was like, you motherfucker. And I totally stepped in it. I was wearing socks. So it was like, but it wasn't about getting upset or getting excited or it's like, and going back, I guess what I'm getting to is like, you got to let them be dogs, right?
yeah.
And they will learn. I mean, the cool thing now, it's like they're going to be 3 in November.
Oh, they're babies.
Oh, they're
They're
110
such
pound babies.
beefcakes. I know, they're such beefcakes.
They're huge. In the words of
Huge.
Donald Trump, huge.
Huge.
This is getting huge.
It's huge.
So I take him to the dog park, but we walk for 3 miles. We walk the radius or the diameter or the laps around the park, the perimeter. That's what
There it is. I got
that's
you.
the word. Yeah, I'm not gonna make for a good podcaster
I
unless
went to
people want to
school
laugh.
for like 25 years.
I'm educated. Yeah. So we walk the perimeter and they follow me. I mean, they'll go off and do their sniffing and smelling and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
But we're up to 3 miles and they get their exercise in, plus all the treats, plus the good food. And, and then at night when we're just chilling on the couch, it's like we could just mellow. There's Kaya. I see her in the background.
Oh, where'd she go?
She just popped her head up real quick.
Hi,
She's
dog.
just like, hi, I'm right here, Mom.
She has the ball in her mouth. She's like, can you play with me now?
The bowl or the ball?
The ball.
Oh, she has a ball. Can you play it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's like, I'd really like to talk to you right now. I have something urgent.
She's like, it's playtime. It's playtime right now.
Yeah.
So we talked about the negative stuff, but the positive stuff. How do well-adjusted dogs reflect their owners, right? How does that? I mean, do you find that well-adjusted dogs and dogs that behave well are morally grounded owners, or I mean, does that tie into it? I mean, we've talked about psychopathy, and it's obvious that that's the case. But what about good people? I would assume that that's true for the reverse, right?
I mean, yes and no. Obviously they're coming to me because something's wrong. So my sampling, what's it called? My sample size is very skewed, very biased, because they're coming to me because something is wrong. So, but I have met pets that are very calm and very, collected. But for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of anxious pets out there because I think we're just, healing is a lifetime process. So I just keep thinking of one pet parent that I know. She does dog training. So she works with Belgian Malinois and bomb sniffing and whatever.
Oh, like that's like the athletes of the dog world.
But they're also very
special operators.
Yeah. So what I see, and this kind of doesn't really answer your question, but so she seems like she's got her shit together, her poop in a group, as one of my good friends, Mark Grove, says.
Right.
And the dogs that she essentially rescues these dogs that people had purchased because they thought they were macho, like, was it Magic Mike or whatever that movie was that he got a Belgian Malinois? I don't know. It wasn't called Magic
They,
Plants.
they were mirroring themselves from fantasy. Is that what they were trying
Right,
to do?
exactly. Like compensating for something. Oh, I want a big tough dog. Like you mentioned, your buddy that likes Rottweilers. Anyways, side note, but
We won't go with Rottweiler owners.
I think he's fabulous. By the way, I love Rottweilers. They're great.
They're sweet pups. Are you kidding? With the right owner, they're amazing. I actually taught a Rottweiler how to swim. That's my
Oh,
crowning achievement right there.
bravo!
So,
I love that.
yeah,
But I mean, so she's rescuing animals that maybe have been through some sort of trauma or distress, and even though she's well put together, she still has animals that have some sort of issues. But I would say it's safe to say that most people have some sort of issue that they're working through, but their animal will of course be a little bit more balanced if they're not. Like I see the difference even with Kaya. Like she's so sound fearful, sound aversive, fireworks, forget about it. But in the right setting, and now that there's another person in my life, she's kind of mirroring him as well, which is such a trip. It is such a trip to see
taking
that.
the alpha trait.
What is going on there? But also mirroring some of the things that that person may not even realize. And I think it's just, to me, it just blows my mind. It's like so fascinating. It's like watching sci-fi movies, you know, it's like so cool. But she was a little bit more calm with the fireworks this year because of that. You know, if I'm freaking out, she's going to be freaking out.
Right.
So if I'm more calm, I'm like, nah, big deal, firework, whatever. Like, let's go on with our lives. Then she's like, oh, mom's not freaking out. I'm not sure what to do here. So it might take her a little bit, like, you know, when you first start that engine up that's been sitting for a while. But then she's like, oh, okay. So they totally channel us and mirror us and follow our lead because at the end of the day, they're pack animals, you know? So if I sense a threat and I'm literally exuding cortisol, which is our stress hormone, they can smell that. I mean,
Right.
you know, there's
And it's like they can, even if it's cortisol for their best interest, you know, because like you mentioned fireworks. So the last couple years, you know, fireworks were happening, and not, you know, neither dog responded. This year, Angus was the same, very little response. I mean, he would hear it and kind of like perk his ears up,
yeah,
but Malcolm kind of froze, and I was like,
yeah,
dude, what's going on, bro? What
happening.
are you? Yeah, what's happening? So I don't know, about 20 minutes into it, and of course, you know, it's like fireworks are everywhere. And so finally I was like, well, I'm going to do to you what you guys do to me. I'm going to dogpile you. So I jumped on top of Malcolm, and then Angus jumped on top of me, and we got through it. And, you know, cause we're pack animals and they're my pack. So I'm like, well, what, you know, so it's like, I guess that's kind of the whole point of this show, is the fact that these, you know, humans and dogs, you know, can operate like so seamlessly together. And like you mentioned, the special operators, like the dogs, it's like, yeah, you know, I watch those YouTube videos and, you know, and watch how just amazing these animals perform and
Yeah,
how much they help veterans too. Like after they retire, you know, these honored animals, right? These soldier animals that, soldier dogs, you know, it's like they retire them, and then vets will adopt them. They like, sometimes it's their owner, sometimes it's another vet, and you know, and they just work so flawlessly together.
yeah.
Um,
I will say to that, to your point, I think as humans, a lot of us are remembering our inner divinity and how we once were, like how we were originally created to be, right? Like to get really spiritual. And animals are a great, you know, reminder of that because like you said, they live in the moment. They don't have any agendas. They're not in the rat race. You know, if they were living in the wild, you know, they would be scavengers. Dogs would, at least. Cats are, you
yeah,
know, more hunters and predators. So um, literally our purpose on this planet in this lifetime as mammals is to, you know, eat, sleep, and reproduce and survive. You know, our
right.
stress system is there because we were outrunning, you know, dinosaurs and other predators and things that wanted to kill us, and we didn't have all these stressors that we have nowadays. You know, so I think that's the beauty in being sharing your lifetime with an animal.
I would argue that I think we had different stressors
Yeah.
early on,
Oh yeah.
like not the ones we have today. Yeah,
Well,
but
the
different. Yeah.
stressors were, you know, are we gonna have enough food? You know,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Okay.
are we
Yeah.
gonna get eaten by
We're
the
tracking.
yes, those, our adrenal glands and our epinephrine, adrenaline, that was there so that we could flight or fight, like get the hell out of there kind of a thing. Blood rushes to your muscles instead of your stomach because you're not going to rest and digest when something's trying to kill you.
Right.
So, that's where I feel like it's a natural like tie back into, living with an animal, because it helps us remember like, oh, okay, don't stress about all this other BS that's, drama. Oh, do I have, fancy enough car? Like, oh, my neighbor just got, this done to their house. Like, I need to, keep up with the Kardashians or whoever you live next to. Like, no, dude, like none of that. I say that with grace for people that see that as important, but none of that is really important when at the end of the day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So self-discipline, dogs, chaotic behavior, things that, it's like for example, like I also, and this is one of those other points of where like Ollie taught me how to be a better human. The thing is like anytime like my dogs make a mistake, for example, like that example that I gave you about Malcolm peeing, right? It's like it's so easy to go and blame the dog, right? Oh, I got an even better example, and this happened really recent. So I ended up these glasses cost about $500, right?
Woo.
Yeah, expensive. I was like not happy about that. However, I bought a pair and I left them at home. I left them on the dresser in my bedroom.
Uh-huh.
And so I took, I had another pair. I was wearing them. Blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. I get home and I can't find my glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're just completely shattered and destroyed. Right?
Shit.
Girl, I'll tell you what, man. I was fit to be tied. I was just like, what the fuck? It's a $500 pair of glasses. And and it's like I brought them both into the room and I showed them the glasses and I was pissed. Like I didn't even want to talk to them. I didn't want to gauge with them. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't even know what dog to kick. That's why I was so pissed. I mean, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I know. PETA's going to be all over my shit right now.
Yeah.
But, and I say that jokingly, but I was just kind of like, what the fuck? But stepping back and being so livid, the thing is here's the thing. I wasn't pissed at the dog. I was pissed at them for climbing up on, because I didn't train them not to climb on the counter.
Yeah.
That's what I meant about like being, like teaching me to be a better human being. The thing is dogs don't have language. So, it's like when they jump on counters or they jump on a dresser or they do something, it's usually reflects a shortcoming in me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point that people don't really truly understand. And of course I'm generalizing, but this is my fucking podcast, so I can generalize all I want. But the thing is what most people don't fucking understand is that anytime a dog displays a behavior, it usually points out a flaw in you and your inability to manage and control the situation. And I don't mean like taking control as in like, oh yeah, you got to beat the dog or you got to, discipline the dog. It's like, no, you didn't take the time to show your dog what the appropriate behavior was.
Yeah.
Right? They're like little children. And I think, and if I had kids, this is probably, and if I had a piece of advice, right? Because I'm a Gen Xer and, it's like, well, anyways, I won't even get into the whole father-son relationship. But what I'm getting at is if people, and it's like my Italian's coming out. Can you see that? It's like people who have kids, it's like instead of stopping and yelling at your kids and then making them feel like shit because they didn't do something right, it's like, why don't you just step back for a fucking minute and then tell your kids this is why this is wrong and show them the correct way of doing it. We're so quick to fucking jump down somebody's throat, especially kids. It's like, well, they don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like dogs. They don't fucking know. So you have to show them. You got to give them something better. In the case of dogs, you give them the reward is the treat when you're sitting down, not what's sitting on the counter. right? When you're dealing with kids and children, it's like, no, you show them the better way of doing it. That's
Yep.
not going to cause them chaos.
Oh,
That's my fucking soapbox rant regarding children, because I think Gen X kind of fucked up. We gave a lot of these kids way too much fucking rope, and now we've got a fucked up society that just anyway, I don't want to get into the politics of it. Trying to
well,
get this is
yeah.
all about you.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of me, I went exactly through that same thing growing up on the farm. All I wanted to do was be outside and ride on my brother's moped and drive a car. Like, I've been fascinated with anything with wheels since I was like 5 that I can remember. I would sit on my mom's lap and drive, our to our 100 acres of land that we had. I think it was like a mile or so of dirt road, which I still love a good dirt road. But like, all I wanted was to learn how to do things, and all I got was a parent and uncle and plus or minus brother that had zero patience for me to show me how to. No, Carmen, no, you're doing it wrong. Blah blah blah. I had been so afraid of doing something wrong, making a mistake, which that's an opportunity for growth, right? Like, I know
Right.
that now in my second Carmela 2.0. But yeah, all I got was, yelled at, no patience. Just give me, I'm just going to do it. I'll do it myself. And I'm like, how am I going to ever learn if you don't show me? All I wanted, I was a sponge. I still am. I still love learning. But like, that's all I ever wanted was like, I wanted to be outside. I wanted to, tinker on the tractors and, whatever cars we had and mopeds. And that's all I wanted to do. And they never took the time to show me. And my dad had, even now, like, I remember a couple of years back, he came to help me with my sprinklers. My solenoid valves were leaking. So we're changing, the valves out. And I wanted to learn how to do it because I like to be self-sufficient. Not that I want to be fully in my masculine. I'm trying not to do that anymore, but still be
That's a whole other ball of wax.
You have no idea, son. So we're like working on that, and I'm like, I want to talk through it with him because I'm more of the Socratic method of learning, right? Like, oh, why do you think that is? Like, let lead the student to a certain extent, but then let them walk their own path, right? And that's why I think I've been an educator my whole life, to my core. But at one point, he's like, why do you ask so many questions? You're so weird. And like, I was so offended. And in my soul, I was crying.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because I know exactly what you're talking. You talk too much.
Even my brother one time, I was asking him, like, how did that make you feel? He's like, why the hell you gotta ask me that question all the time? What does it matter? I'm not feeling anything. And I was like, whoa, did I trigger you a little bit? Sorry.
Right? Yeah.
It's cool, man. Like, pump the brakes. It's all right. It's just feelings. But my knee-jerk reaction with my dad, especially because he triggers the fuck out of me, which, side note, I became him in my relationship with my ex, which that scared the fuck out of me. And I was like, no.
I totally became my mom. She was my dad in my ex relate, not in my marriage, but she was my dad in that relationship. I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I became my mom. That was weird.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I know how that works. Yeah.
And what also blows my mind, which is a total side note, is how we attract the partner that resembles the parent that we wanted, that we need to heal some sort of, trauma with. I mean, I've attracted, my ex was like my mom, and I became like my dad. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, light it on fire, fucking burn it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I did a complete 180 because no, I can't do that. But I digress once again. But yeah, animals don't know. They're packed, so there are children, and we have to teach them. So yeah, if they're going to do something quote unquote wrong, like chew on your very expensive $500 pair of glasses, which, takes time to get, remade and whatnot.
Right.
That frustration, is right. That finger's pointed right back at us. I see that a lot with animals that are aggressive, or just they're just not they're not calm dogs. It's because the human didn't give them any kind of boundaries. And I love my animals. Like I will move mountains for my creatures, right? And for family too, but mainly my animals, right? But I'm going to discipline them. So like when you say, oh, the Gen Xers kind of fucked it up because they didn't want their kids feeling like they felt when they were kids. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they went to the complete opposite spectrum, forgetting that you got to give them guidelines and boundaries and respect. There has to be respect. I cook for my dog every 3 weeks, and it
Yeah.
takes time. It takes like 3-4 hours to do, and it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't have it any other way. But I'm going to discipline her. If she does something wrong, she wouldn't dare like bite me or, you know what I mean? Because she knows that there's pure love there. But
Right.
there's also rules to follow because it's just life.
Well, and that's what I think that's the point that I'm trying to make is the fact that when your dog does make a mistake or whatever, it really, at least in my experience, it's really a glaring hole in what I've missed, right?
Yep.
In regards to discipline. And so it's like you mentioned, chewing your slippers or chewing, it's like, they teach you to give them alternatives, but I find that just giving them attention and messing with them, and if you can tolerate it, it's like put some thick gloves on and let them bite and let them be puppy behavior, or at least that's my way of playing with them, right?
Be a
And
dog.
so
Yeah, you got to be a dog.
yeah, you got to be a dog, like, and that that brings us right back to that point, full circle, to where it was like, when I felt like shit, what did they do? They dogpile on me, right? So I'm going to dogpile on Malcolm because he's feeling a little scared, a little nervous. So it's like, so and that's exactly it. It's like, don't be afraid to get in the dirt with your dogs, man, because they will be there, and they're just such a huge blessing.
Oh yeah.
So you did mention diet. We'll kind of finish up on this. I want to be respectful of your time because we're kind of gone over an hour.
Yeah.
But you mentioned diet. You meal prep 3 weeks in.
I
Wow, that's pretty. So, any suggestions on for new dog owners and new parents of fur babies? What do you recommend?
So, just like with us, we should have a balanced, proportion of proteins to carbohydrates and, good fats. So the first thing I would say is reach out to your holistic veterinarian that can help you with that at Holistic Animal Doc on Instagram. Soon to have one. I'll,
Well, we'll get to that part for the shameless plug part. So we'll get to the how do they get a hold of you part. But let's talk about diet.
Yeah, so diet basically, what I've done is there's different online softwares that you can use. There's a lot of recipes out there available. Basically, I do a batch of ground turkey, ground beef, and I grind pork for her. Because of there's different energetics to those proteins, whether they're warming or cooling or neutral. That goes back to the chi energy of the animal. And then I add sweet potatoes, broccoli. There's brown rice quinoa pasta that I use, plus or minus spinach, celery, and what else do I put in there? Sometimes I do green beans. I kind of mix it up. You do want to do variety. I've been guilty of like keeping it with those same proteins, but I'll mix up the veggies. I would say sweet potatoes are kind of a base for her because sweet potatoes strengthen the kidneys, and the kidneys process the emotion of fear, and she's a very fearful, kind of insecure dog. So I like to support that. I also give her beef heart. If you have an insecurity or sadness, that's residual in the heart. So that can also cross over with the heart chakra as well. Sorry, getting a little bit of a glare as the sun kind of peeks in. So I feed her beef heart with that as well. And so that helps support her heart so that she's, content and happy and all that good stuff. And
Yeah, I have a tendency of getting stuck because I usually get on beef patties. I'll put them in the frying pan to warm them up because they're frozen beef patties and veggies and about a cup of kibble.
yeah,
They get blueberries.
Blueberries, yeah.
Yeah, I give them blueberries. About a half a cup. So they're running about 3.5, 4 cups. And they've been able to maintain their weight. And plus, like I said, I give them those natural
Juice and
jerky treats and whatever. I think the only thing that I give them that's baked are their biscuits, and that's because and the greenies, because I just want to make sure that their teeth are white. I don't give them dog bones often enough.
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure, shoot.
Since
Do I got to pay you?
everyone's entitled to my opinion. Very opinionated. Greenies are highly processed and they have a lot of starch in them, and they're not very good, essentially, at helping the teeth stay clean. And
Interesting.
a lot of pets get GI issues because they'll bite off chunks and it gets stuck in their gut. So there's that. And then also, what'd you say? What biscuits? What kind of biscuits?
It was the Kirkland biscuits.
Okay.
Those baked bones. They kind of look like milk bones.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be getting any sponsorship from Greenies or anything like that. So
No, sorry. Come call me if you want a better option. So what I use for my dog is
because their teeth, if they don't have their teeth, they're useless, right?
yes,
It's
and
like, so I want to make sure they have strong teeth.
yes, and just like the diet should be natural, so should their dogs are chewers. That's literally like if they were out in the wild, they're scavengers. They would be finding, what's it called, carcasses and stuff, and chewing, gnawing on the bone. Their stomach acid can handle the nasty bacteria, which is why they usually do fine with raw. So you can do raw meaty bones, but not a lot of people are comfortable with that. They have freeze-dried or dehydrated chicken feet, duck feet, which your dogs might just toss back like a little cookie. So
They're like chips. I've done that. Yeah.
and then they have turkey necks, duck necks that they can chew on, collagen sticks. But I like the beef cheeks. They're like rolled up. They look like rawhide, but the cheek of the cow is much easier for them to chew on. And it's almost like a pork rind where, like my dog was chewing on hers earlier. It's down here somewhere. I can show you a prop.
Yeah, sure.
This is what it looks like.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and so these are about 10 inches. They're the mega ones. It's amazing.
It's my podcast. I can make all kinds of stupid jokes.
I mean,
If you saw the one from last week, you saw I made a couple.
Yes, you mentioned size earlier. Yes. My dog is about 64 pounds, and so she can handle this, but she'll kind of like gnaw on this. And so in gnawing on it, they mechanically debride the tartar that builds up on their carnassial or the main chewing teeth, which are the premolars and the molars.
So that's the beef cheek.
Beef cheeks, yeah.
I'm gonna take a look at that, and you can get those on Amazon.
On the line, yes. I usually go. They're amazing. Is the brand that I go with.
Okay.
I think it's just Amazing Pets or something like that. But
I'll look for them for sure. Yeah, because I've got a couple of Amazon subscriptions that come every couple of weeks. How long does that normally last? Just for
it depends on the chewing level of the dog. I mean, I usually only allow her to have it like after dinner, so she's kind of just gnawing on it after dinner. My dog, Kaya, she's a good dog. She only chews on it when I'm home or like she knows it's time. It can give them soft stool when they first get started on it, especially if they're really excited about it and they take it down pretty quickly.
Right.
So just be mindful of that. Anything new you introduce can cause a little bit of GI upset, but
right.
I like these because of the size and they can't really just toss it back that quickly.
Right. Well, and that's the thing because I do get them those bully sticks.
Yeah, those are.
And they're great. They're awesome. I like them, but they don't last that long. Not long at all. It's like I go through a bag, and they usually come with anywhere between 9 and a dozen. So between the two dogs, I think a week, if that. Because I'm giving them 2 a day. Not 2 a day, but 1 each, right? It's like, and so I just want to make. As a matter of fact, I even had a compliment the other day at the dog park. Somebody commented on like my dog's teeth being white, so I was like, all right, proud daddy moment, right?
Hey, you did it. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, the biscuits aren't really doing much because they're not. they don't provide enough friction, for the teeth. And then the greenies, like I said, if you get like a flathead screwdriver and you just put it through, it's going to go through, but it'll break apart more than likely than actually remain intact, and then they can, kind of chew on it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I could see that. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that brings us to about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So, how do people get a hold of you? What are the websites, the social media links, if they wanted to find out more information about who you are and what you do and all that other good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'm mainly on Instagram at the moment because I'm still working on my website. And that would be at holistic_animal_doc, DOC. And I'm in Southern California, so if you're in the area, I usually practice in Tustin. That's my main site, but I also do house calls and phone consultations. So
Awesome. And so if they go on Instagram, they can DM you or whatever, right?
yeah, if
Awesome.
you just Carmela Panza, I'll pop up, and holistic animal doc essentially is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me there. I'm also on YouTube, but I don't have a lot of like content there just yet. So, but working on it.
It takes a minute. I'll tell you what. I got a lot of videos up and a bunch of shorts, and it takes a while to get some traction. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, all you could do is your best, and that's all anybody could ever ask for. Anyways, Carmela, thank you so very much for joining me on this podcast and my adventure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love you, and I'll be talking to you at the family reunion.
Sounds good. Awesome sauce. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Have a good evening. Bye bye.